double check. So for all those who are watching us live at the moment, do forgive me. I'm just running a little bit behind on the getting everything set up. Unfortunately, we had a bit of a technical issue earlier in the day. So Bismillah, 3, 2, 1, here we go. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Rabbi shrah li sadri, wa yassir li amri, wa hlul uqdata min lisani, yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the LMA live stream. As usual, please do As usual, do feel free to keep your comments in the chat, and we'll monitor that and try to respond to them as we go along. So today's episode is an interesting one. A lot has happened since the last time we joined you all. I believe, we reached the brink of World War III. Lebanon's in crisis. Laws have been passed in this country. Lots has happened in this country itself, and a very interesting Ramadan all around. Hajj, assalamu alaikum.
Salam, rahmatullah. Thank you for having me.
How's everything?
Well, we're surviving.
First question is, how's your Ramadan? Before we go into it, because there's just so much.
Oh, look, it's amazing because it's to try and remain in that spiritual path, which Ramadan is supposed to get you in, has been so challenging for reasons beyond our own control. It's hard to be really in the zone, so to speak, when there's tragedy everywhere, and there's just there's doom and gloom wherever you look. And I know we're supposed to stay resilient, and there's no doubt we rely on Allah in all cases. But it's hard to see the ummah so depleted and so defeated and remain positive. It really is hard. This has been the hardest by far Ramadan, not on the body but on the mind.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much going on, Yani. Every Ramadan, obviously, for the last few years has had something sort of going into it that's been difficult. Obviously, 2024, the genocide was ongoing. Yeah. 2025, it kind of just intensified, subhanAllah. It's still going, but now, Yani, the world is more on the sort of brink of everything, subhanAllah.
Yeah. You can add to that. It's not just the world. We're in Australia are going through the most, challenging period of our lives as well. It's sad. It really is sad, and I don't want to make it the sort of the theme point of tonight. But we are fractured. We genuinely, as an ummah, are genuinely fractured and torn apart. And, you keep on thinking about, every time I think about these things and the events that are happening, and I look back and I think, so the seerah is supposed to teach us something. It's not just to make us feel good and get closer to the Prophet, which obviously we are.
Of course.
But there's lessons to be learned. And the lessons were that, unity. And when that lack of unity was there, then they were defeated. And they were always, the challenges always came when there was a difference of opinion. You look at Hudaybiyah, when the Sahabi were upset over the decision to take the 10-year truce, and then how they towed the line and everything was successful. Every time there's been issues for us, it hasn't brought us together. And I thought Gaza would unite us. I genuinely thought nothing in my life has been like Gaza, nothing, and I hope nothing ever again in my life. Yet that didn't unite us. I don't think it's made the ummah any closer than it was pre-Gaza, which is shocking. I don't know what will.
SubhanAllah. Look, I think generally the these things are quite complicated, and so once you get into it, I think there's a general a general atmosphere of support for the people of Gaza, for support of the them seeking their freedom and their sort of support for their resilience. However, once you get into the nitty-gritty of how do we deal with this issue and that issue, of course, there's always going to be slight differences on how we go about things.
But isn't that the problem, Bill? I think if I speak on behalf of everyone that's listening, I think everyone feels that pain of sheer helplessness. You know, and I think that's what's hurting. It's not we all bleed for Gaza, and we all genuinely are torn by what we're seeing. But I think the frustration and the helplessness comes from the fact that we're so utterly helpless. Now we can't even do anything. We can't even scream. And we're getting to the stage where we can't even scream their names. So that's what's frustrating. That sheer helplessness, that sheer utter fact that we're 2 billion strong, but we can't do a thing. We can't do a thing to stop what's now going to be even a greater catastrophe everywhere else in the Middle East. It's growing.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I suppose when you think about it, there's so many ways to unpack what you just said. Let me start there, right? And this episode was supposed to have this kind of dual identity of speaking about a global issue, Lebanon, as well as speaking about some local issues around hate speech and new laws and how they've passed and whatnot, and the ramifications of that. Let's start locally and we'll work our way over to the more global issue, inshallah. So you said that, it's getting to the point where now it's even more difficult to speak. We're more constricted in our speech. And I think we've seen that in this country by the passing of laws, laws that make it, that make one double, triple, quadruple think what they say, and that have effectively made what was once legal, very much illegal. And you can use that history. You can use the history of what you've said, or the law can use the history of what you said against you as evidence to prove that, you're effectively a hater, right? So how did we get here? And what?
Well, talk about complex questions and complex answers.
Yeah.
That's multifaceted as well. We were talking before we went on record, or went on live. We decided as organisations, and I can speak on behalf of the LMA, to disenfranchise from government and politics and everything else. So it's debatable whether that got us anywhere. Then there was multiple voices screaming at government, and from our own ummah to government, and that was fractured. Look. Whenever I think of our relationship with government, it's always come like it's the old colonial mentality. Like we treat them as if they're somehow superior, and not them by government. They're elected officials. They should represent us. But we've never had that relationship with them. The relationship with the Muslim community has always been this colonial sort of episode playing on still. They're our masters, and we should be thanking them endlessly for coming to this country and bow down and
even though at this point we're born and bred here. We're the product of this place, and the policies of this place.
The mentality hasn't changed. That what I don't want to sort of offend anybody, but it's that slave mentality that hasn't changed. It hasn't changed, and I think it's generational.
But I think just on that, Haj, I think to some extent, by some parts of the wider community, it's almost expected still.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to get to. I think we are maturing. I mean, out of all this misery, we are maturing in the sense that there is dialogue now. There is differences now. We are starting to question more now. I think the to get to how we got to this point that's one of the reasons why. Where others were way better advanced in terms of dealing with government and how they demanded things. And without going to names, we all know they were very, very good at collectively garnishing support, getting the media behind them, then mass appeal in terms of the tragedy that was a tragedy in Bondi, and using it in order to pass that could only be described as draconian laws. But in our response even our response to those laws was fractured. We didn't have a united voice. We didn't represent ourselves well. We had so many competing voices to try and say how bad or good the laws were. And I'm talking about our own community, let alone the wider Australian community. So not only were the laws passed quickly, I think without much thought process involved, and if I'm being genuinely honest, I think it was to appease a political agenda. So there was a political pressure on government, and this was the best way to appease it, without a thought process as to the consequences long term.
Absolutely. And I think
But do we have ourselves to blame here? This is my point. My point is, are we victim of our own division? And this goes back to what I started at the beginning. We don't have a collective voice to government. We don't have a collective voice to anything. Like even when the police issue with Sheikh Wissam, the boys,
yeah,
our response was fractured. Like we were all sort of screaming from the hilltops, but different voices, different times. There's no collective. There's no collective voice when
there's no
something
collective
happening.
strategy. Effectively, there's
Zero strategy. Sadly, strategy are confined to each one's organisation, and we all live in these little silo organisations, and we have very little contact with each other, and we're paying a price for that. And I think this is part of the maturing process, that we need to be able to, we can have our organisations, but we need to be able to get together collectively when there's an outside or external influence on the ummah as a whole. We haven't got there yet. That's number one. Number two, we also need to be able to be mature in the way we treat both our contact and correspondence with government and police. We can't have this. It's a very immature relationship that we currently have.
What is our current relationship with police? And it sort of goes to, there's a question that just came in. Brother's asking, Brother Ahmed Kazma, we need an update on the threatening letters. So my just to tie the two together, obviously LMA has a relationship with police.
Of course. And I won't shy away from that. And this is what I was talking about, maturing. I mean, it's illogical. Bill, if a burglar was in your house, who are you going to call?
Yeah, of course.
Ghostbusters. Who are you going to call? Police.
Yeah.
This illogical argument that you should have no contact with police over what happened in that episode is illogical. Because when you're getting threatening letters, you have an amani to protect the people coming to pray at the mosque. I can't just say, oh, well, there's pressure on by community for us to disengage from police. But then the same people that want you to disengage are coming to the mosque. Now, God forbid, if some lunatic comes and decides they want to have a free-for-all like Christchurch, God forbid, then I'm personally responsible for that, because I chose a high moral ground that I don't want to talk to police officers.
Sure, but is the argument more so that it's not about completely disengaging from police? When as an organisation you have to engage with them, but there's there's terms of engagement.
But that's what I'm trying to get at, Bill. I think what we need to learn is disengagement, to me, it does not work. It's not a healthy relationship to disengage totally from either government or police. The lesson for us, I believe, is that we need to engage as equals. Remember, I'm going back to that colonial slave mentality.
Yep.
That has to change. When we do talk to police and the government, we talk to them on an equal level. They have to respect us not as if we're subordinate, people that we should be worshipping the ground that they walk on. But no, they come here with respect. We treat them with respect. They treat us with respect. They genuinely hear our concerns, and we genuinely express our concerns. That's the sort of relationship. It's a mature relationship.
But do we have that relationship at all? Like the thing is, when Mao Lenyan turns around and says, he said a couple of things, but he completely disregarded or dismissed the idea of apologizing for the whole incident, the prayer incident. But even beyond that, I think it was either him or someone else who said something along the lines of, and it's so bad that they even like wider society still speaks like this. He said something along the lines of, we hope people are mature enough not to know that this isn't the Middle East, as if the Middle East is nothing but.
What about the people that were saying they were praying as a prank, as to try and get attention? It was a staged event. Look, we've heard them all. But to answer your question, I can't speak on behalf of the police commissioner. He can speak on behalf of himself. But I believe, this is just my personal opinion, I believe the reason why he doesn't feel the need to apologise is because there's not enough concerted pressure from us as a community. We're nearly 1 million. But we're so fractured in the way we talk to them that it doesn't come across as there's 1 million people who are offended. It comes across very fractured. On the other hand, what we've seen with our Facebook posts, whenever we put something up, it gets bombarded with racism. And I believe genuinely there is a lack of political will from politicians to address what is rightfully morally wrong in terms of what's happening at the moment because of fear of the Pauline Hanson effect. That it's not flavour of the month to defend a Muslim. You're actually going to get punished for it politically when it comes to votes. Because at the moment, we as a community feel like we're isolated on our own. No one wants to defend us because it's not flavour of the month at the moment. It's political suicide, actually.
Well, I mean that's a problem, right? That we have sort of allowed ourselves, and it feels like we haven't learnt the lessons of 9/11, to be honest, like the post 9/11 world, where community was fractured. You could kind of give it. Give us the excuse of, we were a smaller community. We hadn't had to deal with this sort of politics before.
Yeah.
But now, we're still dealing with the ramifications of that. We're still dealing with the same problems.
Best way I can answer it, Bill, it's Groundhog Day. We do the same thing every single time there's an episode. We do the same thing. You've got competing organisations trying to take the lead in terms of what they want to say without any consultation with any other organisation. We've done this so many times, like Cronulla riots, like 9/11. We've done Bondi. Now what's happening with the police issue? We never are able to garner united support. And for all the huffing and puffing of Anik and Afik, they represent zero because they are competing with each other for voices. So, I'm not condemning anyone. All I'm saying is we have to start to be able to have these mature conversations without being shut down, without being called a sellout. Oh, you're being bought out for money. Or, how much did they pay your organisation? These are mature conversations we need to have because when we need to be able to talk. Look, let me give you the example. When Bondi happened, okay, how angry were the Jewish community with Albanese?
Oh, I mean, they booed him publicly.
But did they ever stop him from coming to the event? Even when he went to the Bondi or the Opera House? They still allowed him to come. Because they respected the position, not the man.
Sure, but they also, it was like the ultimate humiliation, if anything.
I know.
It's for him, that is.
Of course it is.
And it's almost a showcase. Like, to be honest with you, I would see that as a massive show. And so, Brother Omar, I will get to your question, inshallah. I think it'll be answered in some of this.
Brother Ahmed as well. I'll answer your question to Ahmed in a minute.
But, yeah, for the way that I sort of see it is... bring him and give him the ultimate humiliation in front of the country, right? Everyone was watching
Bill,
that scene.
Yeah, I know, but Bill, the difference between us and the Jewish community is they are organised and they have power in terms of the media, in terms of support on the community basis.
Sure thing, from our end, is it right for us to see the issues that are happening in the world at the moment, and then look? I'm not saying disengage, but I'm also saying there's a level of celebration that sort of happens in our community, which is it's a little bit bootlicky.
But that's what I'm saying. We haven't got beyond this colonialist attitude to our superiors at the moment. This is the mature conversation I'm talking about. The idea of we need to mature, but not so necessarily just disengage totally. We need to start developing the institutions that allow us to be politically savvy, media savvy, being able to communicate on all types of levels effectively and getting that message across. The Jewish community does that very well, and they got the laws passed that they wanted by being able to rally the troops, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's the level that we need to get to. And it's not, I don't have the answers. I generally don't, but I can see the way they do it, and that it's way more effective than the way we do it. And that's a long story. That's going to need episodes on its own. But let me answer, before I forget, Haj Ahmed's question. To give you an update, Haj Ahmed, we know just about as much as you do. The first threat was there was a prosecution, a 71-year-old gentleman from Burwood. I say gentleman very liberally. The number 2 and 3 are still being investigated. Number 4, we received an email today from the police that they've also set up a file for that now, and that's also under investigation. So we don't know anything other than they're under investigation at the moment.
Wow. SubhanAllah, this is one of those things, like when we're engaging, like we know that if something was to happen, in other parts of the community, the wider Australian community, you'd be hearing updates fairly regularly,
course.
and there'd be something sort of following up on that.
But see, but why would there be regular updates? Because there would be pressure. There would be constant pressure from the community, from the media, from all facets, really pressuring answers. Like, give you the example again. It's probably terrible examples, but the only one I could think of, when there was a call for the Bondi Royal Commission.
Mm-hmm.
There was an outcry non-stop. Every single Daily Telegraph episode, Sky News, the community all garnered around it, and it was forced upon them.
Yeah,
we can't garner that support. We can't collectively write an email to the police commissioner saying, "Hey, give the community an update as to what's happening in Lakemba," because probably one email will happen. And then we sit in our houses, in our silos, and we question the world, and we question organisations. Why are you doing this? Don't have connections with them. But when we do need to garner the support, everyone sits back and just says, "Oh, well, takala Allah. Let it be what it is." We need people to start being effective and active. Don't be a critic. And I said this when I first started. I don't know. I don't have a manual as to how to do this job. But at least I'm trying. I can say to Rabbal Alameen, I may have done 80% wrong. But Rabbi, I tried the hardest I could to try and better this community. I'm talking to my brothers and sisters, don't be a critic. Come and help. If you think you have a better option or a better way to do it, or you want to collectively send emails to the commissioner to demand a response, that's how we do it. We put collective pressure. We don't put collective pressure on our own organisations. We put collective pressure on them.
Okay. And the other question from Omar was, why is there no relationship with other Islamic organizations? I'll get you to answer this one from an LMA perspective. Yeah. Who is to blame? And rather than who is to blame, what is the solution? So is sort of ask the second.
This is me, Jamel Khair, talking.
Yeah.
This is not, I don't speak on behalf of the LMA. There's 15 board members, but I'm speaking me. The problem, I genuinely, in my heart of heart, we have made every single attempt, and we're in Ramadan and I'm fasting. We have made every single attempt with every organisation to try and build a bridge with them. Be that via joint communications, joint statements, joint press releases, joining on the days of the Eid, whatever the case. We being this board that's been 5 years old now, we took an oath to say we are not in competition with any other organisation, bil'akas. We want to join forces with these organisations. I'm not going to lay the blame on who it is. All I can say is we have made every concerted effort to. Whatever the case may be, others don't want to join that collective effort. I don't know. That question has to be addressed to them. Mm-hmm. The answer, again, this is me. I believe the answer, and I genuinely, in my heart of heart, believe that the answer is we need an organisation that owns no assets, because then it cannot be held to any account by government. We need an organisation that can have AFIC, ANIC, LMA, all the other organisations have members on it. And I'll give you an example. It's a bad example, but the Jewish Board of Deputies. Mm-hmm. You have a Board of Deputies that owns no assets. So it's not in it for the money. It's not in it to get a fund or a grant or try and get favours from government. It owns zero, but it represents all of us. And it is empowered to go and collectively put pressure on government, police, whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. The mosques owners, like the LMA, don't need to get in politics anymore. So we're not at risk of losing our assets. We can go and get the grants because we are now apolitical. Mm-hmm. All the mosques become apolitical. So we're not at risk of losing our mosques or closures of mosques or all this other stuff that we hear. We are apolitical, the mosques. We appoint a board collectively Australia-wide, and it speaks on behalf of the Muslim community.
Okay. Let me run down that idea a little bit. This is just so our audience knows, this is a very off-the-cuff conversation.
Yeah. Everything we're talking about is off-the-cuff at the moment.
Usually I have a bit of a, show notes and things like that in front of me. But today I figured, one on one with Jamal, let's just talk.
Yeah, you should see what we talk often. We're being nice now.
Yeah, that's very true. I'm actually being very nice to Jamal right now. But all right, so taking that idea, we have a problem with boards in this community where a board will be established and it'll sit there for the same people, the same faces will be on there for 2-3 decades.
I know you're getting that.
Same ideas will be caught up and people think they're smarter than the average Joe and they deserve to be on the board and they established it and whatever else. Like we haven't even got boards done right in this community.
True. We haven't got organisations done right. Forget the boards. We don't have. Look, at the very least, and I'm not saying this because I work. I'm a volunteer, by the way.
Well, I was going to say,
volunteer for the LMA. At least we have a board.
Yeah, sure.
That is accountable, that is elected, that financials are provided to the board, the financial members.
You're talking about the LMA here.
LMA. Mm-hmm. We've got organisations that don't even have boards, that aren't elected or removed by anybody. This is what I said, Bill, at the beginning of my conversation, and I want the listeners to please. I'm ranting at the moment, but my main point that I want people to understand and listen is we need to have these mature conversations now. It's no longer about we need to open a mosque. Alhamdulillah, we've got plenty of mosques. It's not about anymore, which aqidi or madhab do you follow? They are important, yes, but they're not impacting our day-to-day at the moment here living in Australia. We need to start to have these mature conversations about politics, government, police, media, how we represent ourselves, how do we hold ourselves, who do we entrust to speak on our behalf. These conversations need to be had. Now, the boards that you're talking about, the board that I'm dreaming of is a board at arm's length from all the other organisations. It has a role to the existing organisation will appoint a board member, but the board itself will be established in a constitution which has a due process in it, compliant with Australian law, ideally created by somebody who has no affiliation to the Muslim community at all. Because that's the only way you can have a board that's going to be fluently run and legal and ethical. So no one has a vested interest in it. We create a board with a constitution and there's an election process that each member, being organisational members, will have an input in.
Okay.
That's a role. I don't have the ideal. I just have the model. The model is I believe we need an independent board that speaks on behalf. Now, trying to get all these organisations to agree, good luck.
And then there's also the spectrum of opinion that happens, right? So the ideas are like you said, there's all the way from complete disengagement to I'll be nice, complete complete engagement. Over engagement is what I'd probably even call it.
Yeah, but again, that's one valid opinion. Others would tell you, well, there's no such thing as over engagement. I mean, they're all valid arguments. The other opinion would be that if you do not engage, even if you call it over engaging, if you do not engage, then how can you possibly advance the community's interest?
So what I'm saying is, like, if you want to create this sort of board, this independent board. How do you ensure that you capture the spectrum, right?
Because at the end of the day, that independent
and I suppose
board,
you have to come to it with the idea that there's going to be a level of engagement.
Of course.
But it's what's the foot that we're.
But my point is, if that independent board is for it to work, it has to have buy-in from every organisation. And then that every organisation buy-in comes from the people that are affiliated to those organisations or those mosques. Mm-hmm. So that's the only way this will work. When all of us, and I mean all of us, every single person in Sydney or in New South Wales or in Australia, say, yes, this board speaks on my behalf, then it has clout. Now, the minute it doesn't have, when it becomes irrelevant, is what you're really trying to say, when it doesn't speak on behalf of its community, then the community we've matured enough now, will clearly tell it, hey, you're not speaking on our behalf anymore, you're going haywire. But they never will get it totally right or totally wrong. I mean, we're humans. We'll make mistakes. The board will make mistakes. But imagine the power that board would have when it says, I represent 1 million people.
Okay.
And he can go to the Prime Minister and say, you don't have to talk to the LMA or AFIC or ANIC or which other. I'm not having a go at anyone here. I'm just saying big point. Or the Victorian Council or New South Wales Council. You have to deal with us. Like it or lump it, you need to deal with us. Because we're going to go back to our 1 million people and tell them what you said, what your response was, how you're going to action or not action. And then clearly where they're going to reflect that in how we vote.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a lot more power than, everyone criticised Sheikh Yahya, poor thing. Like he went up on the moon, but he did say a statement, which I didn't agree with, but he did say it regardless. But all right, what effect did it really have?
Yeah. Okay. I get you. So the point here is, look, it's an organization that comes together, brings the vast majority of voices together, and then you don't have these weird spats online where this organization's calling out that organization. Correct. And why are these guys
because
talking together?
Because they become apolitical.
But
now.
in some ways, to be quite honest with you, in some ways, isn't the current status quo of the Muslim community exactly what the government wants and in some ways exploits to its own benefit?
You're being generous by saying status quo. I would say they are actively involved in dividing us even more. And that's true. But Bill, again, this is what I talk about, mature conversations. I am not anymore a person, who now says it's their fault. Mate, we are 3% of the population. They are going to look out for the 97% that votes them in. Okay? We're 3%. I don't want to blame them anymore. We're not going to get our way as much as we want because we are 3%. And that's a reality. We're a small minority. We're not going to get our way.
It's still a sizable minority.
I know, but what I'm trying to get at is why am I blaming them for when I'm the problem? When I say I'm a collective I. I'm the problem. You go look at the Facebook posts that are happening between Muslim groups. Vile, calling names, having these public spats, which goes against everything that's sunnah. When we've got bigger fish to fry, it just doesn't make sense to me. We will never get this right. But I tell you one thing: we're never going to get anywhere near right if we continue fracturing and continue dividing. We need something that brings us together, and whether that's LMA or some other organisations, but we all need to have some buy-in to it.
No, I agree. I agree to a large extent. There's a part of me that look. There is always a question of, for me, look. There's a system that's there in place. At the end of the day, that system's going to it's self-interested. They are always going to play you towards their interests, and they're gonna use you in.
Are you talking about government?
Yeah, or the system in and of itself, capitalism.
I don't agree. I don't agree because my example for you would be, as I said before, the Jewish Board of Deputies. They can get what they need. They can speak collectively. Yeah. There's more to it. I know.
We can have that conversation.
I'm not that naive, but they do get. But what I'm trying to get at, they speak collectively with one voice. They are fractured like we are.
Yeah,
we know that. We know they're fractured. But when they go to government, they go with unity. They go with collective power. That every single person is riled up to write an email. We can't get 50 people to write an email to the Commissioner of Police.
Yeah,
this is what I'm talking about.
Okay, let's then address our current circumstance a little bit. And there are a couple. Let me actually take this question from Ahmed again. Comment. Ahmed Al-Ahmad's heroic act in Bondi terrorist attack was an opportunity to prove to the people to the Australian public and everyone else that the majority of Muslim community are loyal citizens. Look, can I just say on this, Brother Ahmed, without talking down to you or anything like that, and my personal sort of take on this, we should never have to prove this. To be very honest with you, we should never have to prove our loyalty. We should never have to prove our
100%.
Like people,
Australianness,
our Australianness or whatever. We shouldn't have to pull out our passports and say, which country do I stand up for first, or what do I pledge my allegiance to first? First and foremost, my dear brother, and with all due respect, our allegiance is ultimately to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and nothing and nobody else. Of course, but the point is that we don't have to actively be proving these things to anybody.
But
we exist in this country and we contribute in our ways, and that there shouldn't be more to it. When we talk about, sorry, I'm just going to go on my own little rant here for a second, Haj.
Go.
When we talk about multiculturalism in this country, right? Let me get to the baby of this of this country's social fabric, multiculturalism.
Yep.
I'd actually argue that in many ways it's very, very monocultural. And when I go to a country like Malaysia, for example, you see 4th, 5th, 6th generation Chinese and Indian Hindus and whatnot, and Malays, who still have a deep connection to their own language, there are Chinese that basically speak Chinese Mandarin really well, and those who have been have seen there's a history of people maintaining their culture, maintaining their heritage and their background, while still participating in the society as per normal, right? Whereas here, to a large extent, it's like, okay, your multiculturalism is your food and your dress, and we'll celebrate that. But your ideas or your way of being, is always going to be questioned. You're always going to have your Pauline Hansons, for example, and not that I think Pauline Hanson is irrelevant. I think she's just the non-filter of, the right side of politics. I'll put it nicely. Who are always going to be questioning, why haven't they integrated enough yet? Why are they still obsessed with this language called Arabic? Why are they still holding on to some of the ideals of the Quran that we deeply hold on to? Or more directly, why do their women still wear the hijab?
Yeah, but look, I don't want to defend Paul, but I have to
put you in an awkward position there, Haj.
No. But look, I don't agree totally. I think Australia does accept the fact that you can speak your language, you can keep your religion, but it has a different set of rules than Malaysia. It's built on this Western capitalist system that what they love to call the Judeo-Christian.
Judeo-Christian society or values,
and so their whole precept is built around that. That's another long story. But look, Pauline Hanson and the racist element, it's not specifically Muslims. We just happen to be the target now. I mean, the poor Asians
the flavor of the day sort of argument. Yeah,
the Asians were the one before, and this is common. And this is I came to Australia in 1973, and same racism existed then. It's just in a different form. Racism is there. It's always going to be there. I'm again, I want to be tough on my community because this conversation goes to my community. We can do more to help ourselves in the sense that these are the mature conversations we need to have, rather than us bunkering down and saying, oh no, here comes the bullets coming back at us again from the media and all the racist element. We need to engage. We need to learn to engage. We can't live isolated. Look, there are those, trust me, I've met a lot of them on Facebook, who no matter what you do are going to hate Islam. No matter what you do. Wallah, no matter what you do. Inshallah, I feed them every day here and I give them a bed to sleep in. I look after their kids for them till they become adults. Their hatred for Islam is there. It's never going to go away. They're your Abu Lahabs of the world. Nothing's going to change them. But there are a lot of, and I would say the vast majority of Australians who just have a misunderstanding and don't know enough about the Muslims or the Islam. And it's our job. This is our job to do. This is our job to go out and do that Darwin. I don't mean Darwin in a traditional sense. I mean Darwin the way we hold ourselves. We engage in conversations. We don't give them that death stare like, what are you staring at, mate? I'm going to kill you. That's just a stare of, I don't know what to make. Give them the benefit of the doubt. But let's engage. We need to start learning to engage. We need to start learning to talk. We need to start learning to, I think we've done a brilliant job, mind you. I honestly do. I mean, 70s and 80s Australia was far different being a Muslim kid than it is in 2026.
I can imagine.
We've got, mashallah, so many wealthy people in our community now who have made a very good name for themselves. They've got corporates. We've got lawyers, barristers, nurses, doctors. We didn't have these. And that's why I agree with you. We don't have to apologize for anything. You know, I don't see a whole religion apologizing for an act of one person other than Islam. We don't have to apologize. We didn't do anything wrong. You know, Bondi wasn't done by us. You know, it was done by two people. They can be held responsible for their acts. But why should we be collectively condemned? Why should we have that knee-jerk reaction to sort of legitimize who we are? No, we legitimize who we are by talking to our neighbors, carrying ourselves in the way the Islam tells us to, in terms of the akhlaq and adab. That's what we lack. I genuinely believe. I think we need lessons in akhlaq and adab with each other and with others.
Look, I think I largely agree with what you're saying there. I want to change tact a little bit, just because we are running. It's almost 6:30. We can go to.
We haven't talked about Lebanon, poor Lebanon.
Well, before that, we just put out a press release not long ago. I haven't read it myself yet, to be quite honest. About the Christchurch massacre.
Yeah.
Why did we feel the need that we needed to say something about that?
Because if you look at the effects that it had on society in terms of Christchurch and Bondi, they were both heinous acts, and they both rightfully should be condemned. But the Christchurch episode just wavered off into nothing, and there was no laws that came after it to address the extremist right. Whereas the Bondi resulted in a full-blown crackdown.
Yep.
And I felt
One
it was
would
relevant.
say it's two different countries, though.
Well, but the laws apply equally, because that person that committed that crime in Christchurch wasn't born in New Zealand. He happened to be an Australian who was brainwashed in Australia and just decided that New Zealand was an easier target. That doesn't make it right. I mean, if it's New Zealand or if it's England, or it's a question that still needs to be answered. We've believed it was relevant for the LMA to come out and say, we condemn terrorism of every kind, whether it be in Christchurch, whether it be in Bondi, whether it be overseas. And we say we condemn it based on our belief in Islam. Islam does not accept terrorizing citizens. There's no role for acts of terror where it's aimed at people going about living their daily life. That's what we wanted to address in that letter, to say, you know, we condemn bigotry, hatred, racism of any kind, anywhere in the world. And until Australia is mature itself enough to accept that there is a racist element and to learn to address it, that's what that letter was aiming at, that we've learnt nothing from Christchurch, because clearly we got to Bondi and now we've got Pauline Hanson leading the votes. You know, so what have we learnt from Christchurch?
Yeah, well, I suppose the question is that then, you know, why don't we as a community then remember this event yearly? Like, it seems like we've kind of just relegated it to
Bill,
once every other year.
I would argue it would have been incumbent on every organisation, Muslim organisation in Australia, to send a representative there every year, and then we do a full-blown memorial every single year, but not here in Christchurch. You can call it, you know, a salah for the deceased.
I mean, like we you know, this is the first that I've seen the LMA put out a release about this, right, on this particular date. I saw another organisation do something similar, like, you know, a few years ago. Anyway, that was what it was. But my point is that, yeah. So it seems like we haven't remembered. We're
being bombarded with episodes every single day. Like, sadly, Christchurch sort of gets put in the memory banks because you're dealing with a catastrophe every single week. In our community. And I'm not saying it's our fault, but, you know, every week you're addressing something. Like, you know, the media are hounding now my phone. Because there's something happening, then there's always a cheap shot at a Muslim, because there's always an episode happening. So Christchurch wrongfully is being neglected. I agree with you. We don't have enough respect for the people that died that day, and for the act, the way it was, so disgusting that it was. We don't publicise it enough in the mainstream conscience of Australians, because that's something that all Australians should be ashamed of. And it's our job to shine that beacon on that event, not their job. They want to forget it. They want
Yeah,
to make
of
it
course.
as some extreme act and bury it.
Of course,
in St. Dumbly.
and it's just something that's
Yeah.
kind of happened and left, right?
Exactly. It's like Port Arthur. We don't want to remember it anymore. There was something that happened, just bury it in the sand. He's been trailed to never see light of day, but
Yeah.
let's not talk about it anymore. It's our job to talk about it. Now, don't the Jewish community do it that well? Like the Holocaust is nearly what?
You
Nearly
know,
100 years, and we're reminded of it constantly, and rightfully, because that episode should never happen again. And I would argue Christchurch should never happen again. But it's our job to keep on
Unfortunately, the difference between what had happened in Christchurch and what had happened. Anyway, the whole incident was the taking of 51 Muslim lives, but we're very used to seeing that around the world these days as well. We're not used to seeing it in the Western world.
So
sure.
let's compare just Bondi and Christchurch. The episodes work very similar.
Yep.
Very, very similar, sadly. Aimed at a religion, targeting religious people in a religious act. Whether you agree with it or not is irrelevant.
Yep.
The act itself was heinous. And the similarities are glaring. But we were unable to rally the troops, so to speak, to keep the light shining on that incident and to shame them. Mm-hmm. To shame every redneck, racist, right-wing ratbag. This is the result of your belief.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think those draconian laws that you just talked about were aimed at? We're embarrassing us. That we have to set laws in to control your faith. That's what it was aimed at.
Yeah.
Well, then why can't we reflect that back onto them and say, well, look at your right-wing ratbags. Why don't you pass the same draconian laws on them? Because look at the result of their Christchurch. See what I'm saying? I'm trying to get us to mature to say we need to have these conversations, not deflect it back onto them.
So
again.
what you're saying is we need to get Pauline Hanson locked up in Queensland.
No, what I would love to see Pauline
Because
Hanson.
if we're seeing two kids who are saying from the river to the sea in Queensland getting locked
is that
up,
his fault? Is that Pauline Hanson's fault? That's Labor fault. It's it's a Liberal government now.
I'm not saying who,
Queensland.
I'm not blaming anyone in particular. I'm just saying that ultimately, if someone can say a phrase which is as general as from the river to the sea, which has a background in
but it's harmless anyway.
It's harmless. Whereas going on the news and saying, the news and saying, there's no good Muslims.
Or to stand in Parliament as a parliamentarian, and the worst that she got was she was suspended for 1 day. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no defence of that. But my point being is Pauline Hanson's wouldn't exist in this world if the light was shown by us on the Pauline Hansons of this world.
My point is, how do we get her prosecuted?
Well, okay, if you want it in a roundabout way, it's a very simplistic way. We need to keep on putting pressure by dialogue with government. This is what I'm saying. You need to engage to say religious vilification laws need to be passed. Now, I got to defend Labor to a degree. Labor was trying to get that through, that hate speech laws. Mm-hmm. They did put it up, religious vilification. It got defeated in the Senate.
Yep.
So I'm not their defender.
But it would have just been part of these laws that are
in their defence. They did put up religious vilification laws, which was aiming to protect the Muslim community from Islamophobia. Mm-hmm. It got defeated in the Senate. I'm not defending it. What I'm saying is, what they did, we need to keep on pushing now. Saying all right, you did it once, go have it again. Go try it again. Keep on pressuring them. Keep on pressuring them. We've got 1 million people can write an email. And I said this, if every single person just for 1 minute wrote an email to their MP saying, I want religious vilification laws passed because I believe Islamophobia falls between the cracks at the moment because it's not a race, they keep on telling us. Mm-hmm. Well, then it's our obligation, not just the organisations. It's every person's obligation to write an email to their MP, demand religious vilification protections for all religions.
Would that actually work in our favour? Like, genuinely,
why wouldn't it?
Why would it? Why, especially when the pressure comes from?
With Pauline doesn't say what she said.
It's not necessarily about Pauline, right? My point is about if these religious vilification laws were to come through, but there's still media pressure, there's still social pressure, there's still the creation of the Muslim community as this sort of fifth column of society.
Yep.
Regardless of whatever laws are passed, right? Like we can say, I can safely say that right now, away from the right wing rhetoric, right? I'll speak only about the left wing, and I feel like the left wing themselves have made Islam and Muslims to some extent a fifth column, while in some ways trying not to, right? But they have, like, the conversations have just inevitably led to that.
Okay.
And so, like, even by the passing of these laws, the fact that the fabric of society is still the way that it is, like, I could, you might have one random redneck here prosecuted, or someone over there prosecuted.
Look, there's vested interest to keep Islam as the boogeyman. I mean, it's very political. And it's not. It's being controversial and very conspiracy theory. But there is clearly a concept to keep Islam and Muslims as the boogeyman, as the one you got to be watching out for. And that comes from the fact that we don't have any presence in the media and that political pressure that we can garner. We don't have we don't have that. But doesn't mean we don't start to try and build something on it. Like, why can't we grow one path and make it into a mainstream TV? Mm-hmm. Shouldn't that be a dream?
Yeah, it shouldn't.
These are the ways that we counter. So what I'm trying to see, these are the intelligent conversations that we need to be having. Let's stop playing the victim and saying, oh, woe is us, they're all after us, they want to get us, they want to do it. Let's start being proactive. Let's start fighting back through making ourselves heard. I just said email. Surround your MPs. Send them an email every single day.
The same way this person keeps calling you, right?
This is my beautiful mum. She hasn't seen me for a couple of days. I got to. I mean, but that's what I'm talking about. That's a mature conversation now, where we say, okay, we're going to build one path into a TV network. We're going to try and buy a mainstream radio network. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've got wealth in this community. Let's buy a radio station.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and create
create one path, create a fifth digital TV network. That's how you counter. You don't counter by playing the victim constantly saying, oh, woe is us. Yeah, we are being victimized. But then we play the victim. Like I'm saying, stop playing the victim. Let's go out there and defend our deen by our actions, by our words, by our statements, and start building institutions that can do it for us and counter the negative narrative that they want to set.
Inshallah. Well, let's start doing that. Inshallah.
Let's talk about the topic.
No. I was gonna say, look, do we want to quickly change gears and just touch on Lebanon just a little bit? The situation there is quite bad. Obviously, with the war with between Israel and the US and Iran. There's been more bombings in Lebanon. There's been more. There's been a open front, I suppose, by the IDF in Lebanon. People being displaced, moving out to... So similar to like what happened, the first time around, people being moved back out to the north.
And it's very similar to Gaza, where they tell them move to the north, and they bomb the south, and then they start bombing the north and tell them go back to the center, and then go from the center to the mountains. Yeah, it's a very similar game, very, very similar game. But, the fear I have with Lebanon, whereas Gaza is predominantly Sunni Muslim, the problem with Lebanon is you have so many sects.
It's much more sectarian.
Yep. And when you started to concentrate, it's like a powder keg. When you're concentrating nearly 4 million people into this, Lebanon is less than Tasmania, I believe. It's the size of Tasmania, I think.
Could chat JP to that to make sure. But
now, if you cut Tasmania in half and said, all right, all of New South Wales, all of Sydney, we're going to put you in half of what you currently live in.
Yep.
Could you imagine the powder keg? Now, we're not talking about Australia. We're talking about Lebanon that is financially broke, very little political governance, no services, no infrastructure. I think the plan is even more evil, because it's getting these sectarians to turn on each other, and then you end up in a civil war in Lebanon.
Yep.
And then before you know it, Israel becomes the one that's going to protect and help, and then Lebanon's a dream.
Effectively, yeah. Well, I mean, the worry is, it is the one country in the world that doesn't have defined borders.
Or a majority of anyone. It's one of the few countries in the Middle East that doesn't have a predominantly Sunni or Shia or a majority. It's so mixed
Lebanon, you mean?
Lebanon.
Yeah, yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
thanks to our overlords, our British and French protectors.
Yeah, I mean, they played it well, and they divided the country on very
well.
awkward lines.
Except the one that the son that they raised bit him in the ass at the end.
Yeah,
Or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe that was planned as well.
SubhanAllah. Look, so the issue there now is there's a humanitarian crisis. It's not. It goes beyond just this war. Obviously, there's the economic situation that you mentioned. The country is a failed state. As much as it hurts me to say that.
Banana Republic, as hard as it is to swallow.
It's hard to see the circumstances of especially the Sunni Muslims, but just the Muslims in general.
But you know what hurts me the most, Bill? Wallahi, and I'm glad this is brought up. And I don't know if you're me to get on it, but I want to get off my back.
Yeah.
You know, like when you're being bombarded and your resilience is being tested, what hurts me the most is when we start bringing sectarianism into it. Like at just a purely human level, you've got 750,000 people have been displaced from the south. This is no time to hold them in some sort of Spanish Inquisition. Like truly, I mean it from the heart.
Yeah.
This is no time to say, I don't want to say what they say, but this is no time to judge what their belief system is. Like even if they were, atheists, they are displaced people. This is no time to say we don't support them, we're against them, that's them, sucked into them, not sucked into them, they deserve it, they don't deserve it. This is a time where we unite and show compassion. This is what our deen taught us.
Does this come from a sort of, what is it, conquer, what's the word, a divide and conquer sort of tactic, right?
I think there's a long history, clearly, with Hezbollah, given what happened in Syria and what's happened in Lebanon. Clearly that's played a role in it, but I know there's grievances on both sides. What I'm saying is right now they are playing divide and conquer. Sorry, yes, the Israeli machine is definitely, and that's why I said I think the whole idea for them is to create a powder keg. This is what I'm saying. This is no time to hold people to any judgment. There's no time to collectively say the 750,000 people you're responsible for what happened in Syria. Because then, if you have that belief system, then the two people that committed the atrocity in Bondi, you're collectively responsible for that too.
If you hold the same logic,
the same logic applies. So don't expect the Australian to understand your logic when you can't apply it to yourself.
Okay.
All I'm saying right now, so we are suffering an atrocity.
So then how do we start to work through this particular situation?
Right now, we protect each other. We have to. There are organisations, including our own, which I don't want to use as a platform, but
Feed the World, by the way.
Feed the World, and there are other organisations, but it doesn't matter who you give to, but you should be giving, because they are literally broke already. They're homeless. They don't have infrastructure like you have in Australia, where you've got massive schools that they can go to. There's nowhere. I'm talking to a brother in Beirut. He said he saw a woman giving birth on the street.
Oh, wow.
There was no hospital.
Oh, wow.
She was coming from the south. She was pregnant. They pulled over the side, and she literally gave birth on the street, and he saw it. There are people sleeping on the beach because there's nowhere to go, and it's winter.
Oh, wow. And winter over there is,
and then people are saying, and then I heard this one disgusting story where someone was telling them, move on, there's no, we paid for this beachfront, and they're moving them on. That's the callous thing I'm talking about. Like, this is no time to be judgmental or holding some, holier than thou attitude. We need to garner together. We've got a bigger fish to fry than ourselves.
How do Muslims here in Sydney, Australia, sort of support them, or help? I suppose break down those barriers.
Okay, two things again. One, we should all be writing to our MPs saying that they need to speak out against what's happening in Lebanon. All of us. We did it in Gaza. We should be doing it again in Lebanon. We shouldn't stop. Like, we're not comparing Gaza to Lebanon. Like, Gaza should, God forbid, should never ever happen again. Yeah. But if we don't do something, Lebanon will be another Gaza. Because they don't have no rahmi for Lebanon. They're quite...
They'd be happy to annex it, for sure.
Exactly. So we have to garner. We have to start being, as I said, we have to start being collectively strong in our condemnation. Like, instead of ranting and raving in the street and venting to your neighbour, write an email. This the most effective way that politicians understand is a vote. if they all collectively started receiving emails from all these Muslim people saying, we demand that the government speak out about what's happening in Lebanon. We demand that you go to the UN and call it out for what it is. Start demanding by collectively writing to emails or writing or knocking on their doors nicely. That's number one. Number two, they are in need of nothing right now more than money.
Mm-hmm.
They need money because, the Lebanese in Lebanon can't support the south.
Yep.
The north of Lebanon. You've been to Tripoli with me. It's flat broke.
Yeah.
I mean, Haram, they can't support themselves, let alone support more people. But they want to. And they're opening their doors. We can offer that.
Have you seen some of that, I suppose, that sectarianism sort of dissipate a little bit where people are trying to support a little bit more, or not necessarily?
The thing I love about the Lebanese is when a tragedy like this happens, it overcomes everything. Like I know for firsthand that the north of Lebanon is being now totally absorbed taken in the south as brothers and sisters, and that's beautiful. What I'm talking about is I hear that commentary here in Australia, not in Lebanon. Lebanon, they're doing amazingly because they've learned this resilience through war. Doesn't discriminate between what sect or religion you are.
Yep.
And they have learned this true sense of brotherhood that overrides holding people to an account. We need to learn that lesson.
Gotcha.
And how we support them now is, as I said, we put pressure politically, and we need to start really, really flushing it with funds.
Yeah.
Because they need to be able to provide for the people that are coming.
Would you say what would you say some of the most effective means are? 'Cause a lot of people here do have this tendency to donate to a family member, to people, directly if they know them. There are also organizations on the ground. Feed the World is one of them. There are many others. I'm not going to.
We're not saying that. We're not saying give just to Feed the World. But I mean, look, to give a little plug to Feed the World, we are one of the few organizations now that has a full-time office in Lebanon, in Tripoli. So we don't have to go through third parties. We can get directly to the sources immediately. That's number one. Number two, we are now we have Lebanese recognition as DGR status in Lebanon, similar.
Okay.
So you've got a recognition in Lebanon as being a registered charity.
The one thing that works anywhere around the world is tax. Like the tax man's always busy.
100%.
Doesn't matter which country you live in. Doesn't matter how failed the
but
state
we're one
it
of the
is.
few organizations that now can collect money directly in Lebanon.
Yep.
So it's not just goods and services. We can actually take money there and hand it out.
Yep.
Not that we're planning to, because it's a dangerous occupation to do, carrying money and handing it out. But we have that legal and government protection now in terms of a status registered there as Feed the World.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to get there. But look, if you've got family that is taking some family from the south in, give it to your family.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm trying to is just giving it to your family to keep them above water right now is I reckon fard ayn, you must do.
Yep.
But there's more that you need to do, because right now we need to look after our extended family. So anyone in the south is part of our family now, and we need to protect them. We need to be able to provide shelter for them, food for them, some decent life for them, until, inshallah, things go back to semi-normal.
Semi-normal. And semi-normal is putting it lightly, subhanallah. Alhamdulillah. Well, that's another hour and a half
Hate me
conversation.
if I talk about that. And let's not get to the Lebanon episode.
Mate, no, don't worry. I still have ftoor to catch. So with that, I think we'll wrap it there, inshallah.
Just a quick plug about tomorrow.
Yeah. So Jazakallah khair for the reminder. So tomorrow, we will be holding the Grand Community Iftar here at Lekema Mosque. I wish I remembered this at the beginning, subhanAllah.
That's good.
But yeah, we'll be holding the Grand Community Iftar. We held it last year. It was an amazing success. Over 2,000 people had rocked up. We're hoping for another 2,000, 3,000 people more. The whole street will be filled with tables and chairs for families, community, friends. allies, whatever, if you have a non-Muslim friend, bring them down, right?
Yeah.
If you have if you've been one of those ones who've been protesting week in, week out, bring down some of the people that you've met there. Let them sort of get an introduction to the Muslim community. Not to be a bit controversial, but Hajj knows me.
Yeah, but just a quick note for that. This year we are registering. You must register.
Yes, there is.
That's primarily to keep it secure. Given we're living in very unsecure days. So we felt the need that you had to do a QR code to register online. So if you go to the LMA website,
just go onto the LMA website. Yeah, the LMA website, the Lakemba Mosque, or the LMA website will have a link for you to register at. You should be able to find those details on our socials.
And I won't lie, we're asking for a $5 donation, and that will go to Lebanon and Gaza. It was originally going to Gaza, but I think now we're going to have to go between Gaza and Lebanon. At the moment, we already have nearly 2,000 people registered. Mm-hmm. I think we have a capacity. I don't want to cut people off, but we have a capacity of 2,500.
Look,
if you roll up with your friend, no one's going to say no, but we do, as long as you register, because you won't be allowed to go through unless you present your registration.
It's a very, very good point. So yeah, if you can register, it's a very small fee, $5. You pay
cup of coffee.
It's less than a cup of coffee in some places. Man, I've seen them at $5.50. Those Strait of Hormuz prices are really starting to hit hard.
Oh, that's next week. That's next week's podcast. Cost of living.
Yeah. Bring Pauline Hanson on to discuss that one, eh? But yeah, no, it's an amazing opportunity to come enjoy the mosque, enjoy the vibe. It feels like having iftar in the Muslim world itself.
Can I tell you just quickly? I know we want to end up, but I think people need to realize what the concept of that was.
Yeah.
When this new board came on board, the Jam'iyya used to do personal iftars where they used to invite other organisations, and they had it was like a private, shindig.
Yeah.
And it cost them an arm and a leg. When this board came on board, we said, look, the LMA is owned by the people that come and pray at the mosque. It's not owned. There's no loyalty to other organisations that don't even pray here anymore. They go have their own little halls that they pray at. So we canned it very controversially. All the elderlies jumped up and down saying, "Oh, what are you doing? This is a tradition." But we canned it. And we said, "No, we're going to do an open air iftar and basically give back to every single person that comes and prays here." And that's the concept behind it. And that's why I believe people should support it. Because you're changing, and this is what it's
a whole mentality change.
That's why at the beginning we're maturing. We're not doing the same thing that we used to do because our fathers used to do it. Remember the Quran? We saw our fathers do it, so we did it.
Yeah, that's right.
We're not doing that anymore, and that's why I believe people. Look, even if you don't like a lot of things the LMA may do, support initiatives like this because it's changing. It's trying to change the way we do things. It's trying to change the culture around the place. It's trying to say, look, we want to be one that represents everyone, not selective. And I think it's important to support initiatives like that, not only just the LMAs, whoever does things that are different, that are trying to be encompassing of the people, support it, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. Especially an event like this where it tries to really get away from the history and the baggage of, of the community. Like, last year I remember everybody sat outside. Like there was no VIP room, for example, and there were some prominent people here.
Oh yeah,
They were sitting next to the Jam'iyya, where on the streets like everybody else, and
the board directors were serving the food, and that's the beauty of it. It's I think it symbolizes the religion so beautifully. When the Prophet ﷺ said that the Muslims are like a comb, the teeth of the comb.
Yes,
the same. Everyone was sitting on tables. It didn't matter who you were. There was no VIP area.
Yeah.
There were prominent people who rolled up, uninvited, mind you, but they did roll up, and they actually had to. We told them, "You're sitting on the same tables. I don't care who you are. Everyone's sitting on the same tables as everyone else. No one's better than everyone else here."
It was beautiful sight to see, and what was even more beautiful to see was seeing Hajj Jamal, pick up chairs and tables. I've still got footage of that.
I was that tired. Allah, God forgive me. I didn't even pray today that day. I went home and I crashed out.
Subhanallah, yeah, it was a long day. Subhanallah, and very high praise by Hajj Jamal, which means it was probably his idea. Subhanallah. It was
It's
a
collective.
great-
Everything we do in this place is collective ideas.
great move by the board, mashallah. And with that, I think we'll wrap up, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair for joining us today. And, we'll be here again in a couple of weeks' time. I believe it's probably the week just after Eid, but we'll keep you guys updated. Make sure you're following us on our social media platforms, and you'll sort of see the posters and whatnot go out. And hopefully next time we can talk about topics which are a little less, heartbreaking.
Can I say, Bill, just something? Why don't the people listening give us suggestions at what topics they would like us to talk about?
I'd love that.
That would be good.
Yeah, if you guys have any thoughts on what we should be discussing, we do try to keep it with the latest news and events and current affairs and whatnot, and obviously the things that impact and affect our community the most. However, we're always open to suggestions and discussion points, and we're even if you have guests that you might want to recommend to come on, please do, and we'll follow up with that feedback, inshallah. And with that, it's 6:50. I've still got a bit of a drive on me, so we'll keep it there, inshallah. Jazakallah khair again, Hajj Jamal. It's a bit awkward moving through all this stuff, but I had to produce.
We'll just get a grant from the government to replace them.
We'll talk about that later. It's an off the record conversation. And assalamu alaikum